Divinely. And always a reminder for myself, ana abduka al-ajizu da'ifu miskeen zalim jahal, and but for the grace of Allah that we're still in existence. Alhamdulillah for the holy month of Qamar and the holy Surat al-Qamar. Allah inshaAllah bring from the realities of guidance and the reality of those who follow the oceans of guidance. And our life is to follow the Divinely light and that which is eternal. And Allah shows the signs within themselves and upon the horizon. And the sign within oneself is harder to achieve because then they have to be true in their reflection and consistent. The signs upon the horizon may be more obvious that people can look to the outside and see the sign on how the moon follows the sun, and as a result of its obedience in its path of following and taking its difficulties and its tests. As a result it reaches a state of purification, and the result of that purification is light. So with the purity of the moon and what it represents and the station that it represents, and maqam al-fardani, is then as the spiritual poles are teaching that they follow the light and the eternal light. And it's a life filled with testing and imtihan, testing from Allah's Divinely Presence. The path of difficulty and testing, but the istiqam and the firmness upon the path and stay the course in which to follow the light. And as a result when Allah begins to purify insan, then they wish to inherit from the reality of the qamar, wish to inherit the reality of reflecting the Muhammadan light. But that light that is being reflected and the path being presented is not an easy path. And that's the difficulty, that people whom they're filled with bad character, bad desires, as they wish to approach the light, it's not as simple as they just, okay. As-salamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is Shaykh Nurjan. Thank you for watching the video that you're watching. InshaAllah if you're happy with the content and happy with these programs, please support the button below. The programs that we have for our orphanage repairs, our water well, Give the Gift of Life, our mobile food vans. We have now 5 vans: Vancouver, Chicago, Los Angeles, Pakistan. There's many programs that reach thousands of people and rescue foods and give those supplies to people in need. Your support is greatly appreciated. Also be so kind as to leave loving comments and please share the stream. Every bit counts. As-salamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm going to go, I'm going to approach, I'm going to take that path. The reality is that the difficulty and the bad character within people not allowing them to move and gain access nearer to that light. That with everything we described, when people come new they're like a wet log, and when heat is touching something wet it doesn't realize anything, it doesn't feel the heat, it doesn't feel that light, and as a result there's a euphoric stage at the beginning in which they feel everything is fantastic, this is so great, all these emanations and the euphoric and ecstatic feeling of emanations. And as one progresses the wetness of that log begins to dry, and as they dry they feel more of the heat, and as they dry they feel more of the heat, and as a result everything inside will begin to come out. So we describe that we have a dish called kale pache, in which they take the lamb's head as an entire meal and they make a soup and they put this into the pot. But unfortunately as soon as you put it into the pot and begin to boil the water, what happens? Means that everything now with the heat and the hot water everything comes out. So whatever type of dirtiness was in that begins to come out with the bubbling of water, with the heat and the application of heat. And with everything that comes out Allah will take that foam of dirtiness and take it off. So it means the hikmah of a divine heat is to relieve oneself of impurities. So if the gold and you want to take a path of gold, then Allah has to burn the copper out, has to burn the iron and charcoal out, burn out all the elements that make the gold to remain impure. That heat process is what we think of imtihan and testings in life. Means every type of situation that's coming to us upon our path, the moon is giving to us that this is not something easy. that as testing comes in one's life, the natural inclination is that a test comes and many will run because they say, it's just not for me, and difficulties in different directions, and they lose their course and they lose their path. They begin to flee from that direction. And that's why then in the spiritual path, the hold tight to the rope of Allah in which Allah is giving the guidance from Holy Qur'an, is that hold tight to the rope of Allah and don't separate from that rope. Why? Because the tariqahs whom they adhered to the principles of Islam and they are holding the reality of Islam. We describe the path is that the bayat is mandatory in Islam but no longer practice. So the adherence to the true path and the true way of Islam is the bayat. And why the bayat is because Allah knows that you better be holding while we begin to throw. Because as these testings come in life, they begin to affect the character of people. They thought they were just going to merely cruise right into paradise. And Allah described and give an example that Nabi Musa asked Allah that in his dialogues of thinking that he had the most knowledge and the highest stations, he went on a course of discovering Allah's creation. One of the events was with Sayyidina Khidr in which he thought he had the highest knowledge, and Allah said, no, above every knower I have another knower. And one went to go meet with Sayyidina Khidr but he had another knower. And he said that, this one I want you to meet is amazing in their worshipness. And he went into a cave and he heard a man doing zikr, and that man in the cave, he's looking at him at a distance, he has no hands and he has no feet, and he sits alone in this cave and making zikr. And he was making his Allah, 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 his zikr, whatever that zikr was at that time in Arabic. He's making his zikr, and as Nabi Musa is watching at a distance, a lion entered into the cave and began to devour the man in a ravenous way, began to devour the man. And Nabi Musa was shocked and retreated and went back and asked Allah, what was that? This poor man had no feet, no hands, and praising and praising and praising you. What did I just see? He said, did you think my paradise was so cheap? Means there's a price for my paradise, it's not something cheap. And Mawlana Shaykh would tell us that and continuously repeat these different examples of these hidden awliya and these people of dhikrullah, the people whom Allah has an immense love upon them, as a reminder that the path has testing. You don't just put it in cruise control and you sort of march into paradise and everything gonna be great and everything opens for you. But it's a path in which to struggle, to fight with oneself, to take the continuous bombardment. And the rule, because Allah wants for these individuals, because He's inspiring them hidayat and guidance. Those whom Allah guides are truly guided. Those whom are not guided by Allah can find no guidance. Then hadan Allah. We say every time in our Jummah, everybody thinks that's for them, but these are for tariqahs. Because if they're not taking the bayat and they're not holding the hand of these awliya, this level of testing is not coming to them, because Allah as He's bombarding, He's then reminding you, you better hold tight to that hand. So you have one hand holding and the rest of you receiving. And you take your blows and you take your blows, but never you let go of that hand. For if you should leave that hand, every type of difficulty comes to the servant in life in ways that cannot be imagined, because it's not something that can be understood. It means the station in which Allah wants to dress is not that you just walk into paradise and it's finished and everything gonna be great. It's a test and a continuous stages of difficulties and tests. Where Allah describes Surah Al-Inshirah, which is about the opening and the heart transplant. That after difficulty comes ease, and then again Allah warns us, after difficulty comes ease. Not the reverse, that I give you ease and then there's difficulty, I give you ease and then there's difficulty. But after difficulty comes ease means that every test that comes in life, don't worry, inshaAllah there'll be an ease, but be prepared for the next round that's coming right behind it like waves. And as a result of understanding guidance, means these are the beads that the shaykh keeps reminding himself and everyone else, is a tasbih. All of these have to be used together. When you train in tariqas, you're doing your muraqabah to make your connection, you've taken your bayat and your allegiance, and what Allah describes for the bayat, the one who breaks it to the detriment of his own soul. Now means his soul is in danger in the breaking of his bayat. So it means it's not something you can pick and choose and say, hasta la vista, because now you have no hand to reach to you that gives an ease and gives the support, but that doesn't mean Allah's not finished beating you. Means didn't mean just because you decide to walk away then Allah's decided not to give you a test and give you tests and raise you. It just means you distance yourself from the rahmah and the mercy that was holding you and sending a light to you, sending an ease to you. And that's all shaitan wanted. He knows that he's not going to take somebody away from tariqah and put them in the lap of ease, but what he wants for these tariqah people to devastate and decimate them, that